Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Focus on DatoCMS course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Send me an email with questions, comments, ideas, whatever you have, send them over. I'd love to hear from you. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll incorporate any ideas you have into future possible lessons. So I'm glad you're here today with me. Happy Friday to all of you watching live. Weekend is almost here. Today, I'm going to show you how to work with entry and assets, the version, specifically version control. How do you revert to previous versions and entries? And the big question, can you do that with assets? I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. You can't, but I have a possible workaround, which I'll show you that may work for you. So that's what is happening today. But you know how this works. Like always, I'm going to tell you real quick about headlesscreator.com. You want to go get your free account. Why? Because you'll have access to everything on the site for free, thanks to our sponsors, which I really appreciate. You'll have access to all of the on-demand lessons, past and present. You'll have access to the entire course, the Focus on DatoCMS course, along with all the other courses, Content Modeling Weekly, a whole bunch of Focus on courses, Discover Headless Tech course, and I'm about to launch a brand new course called Personalization Bootcamp. That's going to be a really cool one. So get your free account. It's a perfect price. And it's real education. I don't believe in marketing, except I'm marketing my site right now, but I got to tell you about it, right? But I don't do any kind of marketing kind of content. This is 100% real education, as I'm about to show you today. So anyway, that's it. That's all there is to the marketing part. I'm done with that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and restart the intro. Because you know how it works for the on-demand version, there's absolutely no marketing. So we'll have a nice intro and we'll jump into the lesson. So I will see you in just 10 seconds. Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Focus on DatoCMS course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Feel free to send me questions, comments, feedback. If you have ideas of future lessons, just send them my way, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today, I'm going to show you how to work with entries and assets, and specifically, how do we create versions and revert to previous versions. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So let's jump in. Let me go ahead and show my screen here. And okay, so what am I going to talk about here today? So let's start with what are versions. Versions are a snapshot of a record each time you click on save. That's really important to understand, that it's a snapshot of anything that changed in that record. And this is going to come into play to understand when we talk about localization and version control for localization. So you can easily revert to previous versions. And I'll show you how to do that in DatoCMS. And of course, before you revert, you can see what changed, what got deleted, what got added, and like I said, what changed. So I'll show you all of that in just a second. But what I want to talk to you about first is the hierarchy of DatoCMS, because you need to understand this to really understand, not to really understand, but at least to have a better idea of how versions work. At the top level, we have the DatoCMS product. Then you can have multiple projects. Each project can have multiple environments, okay? Now, for example, you'll have a master environment, and you may have a development environment, a staging environment, so on and so forth. Environments have two things. They have content and they have media, among other things, but the main thing for us, right? Within content, we have content types. That's how you enter information. Content types have entries. That's when your authors go into, let's say, the blog content type and create a new blog entry. Entries have versions. So whenever you enter something into that blog article content type, you create a version. Then you go back and change it, you create another version, or what they call snapshots. So that's important to understand, and I'll show you how that looks like, what that looks like in DatoCMS. The other thing that's important to understand, and I already gave the spoiler away, on the media side, there is no version control. You can't remove a media and then revert back to that media before. At least as far as I know, I looked everywhere and I just couldn't find anything anywhere, both on DatoCMS, the instance, and on documentation. There's nothing that says you can actually revert. But I have a possible workaround that may work for you. Okay, so that's the overview. I want to make sure I've got it covered here. So what I want to do now is I want to show you in DatoCMS here. We're going to go into, I have some content types from my previous lesson, and we're going to go into here, and I'm going to go into, I went into content, and I'm just going to go in this person collection that I have. And you can see that I have here Marcelo as an entry. And actually, let me go, there we go. So that way we see the sidebar, because in the sidebar, you're going to see revision history. And you can see that this entry was created once only right here. You see November 3rd at 7:48, I created it and published it. So let's make a change real quick. So we're going to say Marcel, we'll just remove the O, we'll say Marcel, and we'll, let's see, we'll add an S, even though all of this is wrong on purpose. And then we'll add another, we'll change this to 2345. Let's go ahead and click on save. And now you see right here under revisions, you see that a new version was created. The previous version is November 3rd. The new version is what we just saved and published right now. And you can see that this version is actually live, it's published. So how do we then go look at previous versions and or revert to previous versions? It's really easily. It's real easy. You click on any of these, it doesn't matter. You may have 100 here, you just click on one of them. What happens, you get the record history, and then it's going to show you all the versions you have here. So for example, you can see that we've changed the O and the S here. And on the previous version, it had Marcelo Lewin, but in this version, we changed the O and the S. So let's say you want to revert to the previous version right here. And anything that changed is, anything that changed or added is green. Anything that got removed as an O is going to be your deletions, okay? So let's say we pick this and we revert. So, or I'm sorry, that's the published version. We'll pick the November 3rd and we go, you know what, really, this is the correct name. Let's click on restore this revision. So we'll restore it. And then you notice that it restored the previous revision by creating a new version and publishing it. So now we have three. This one, the November 3rd, and today's right now is going to be the same thing. You can see right there, and you can see some of the changes, right? So we're good on that. So now we have the Marcelo Lewin, and then everything else is back to normal. So if we make another change, if we go back to 2345 on this, click on save, we have a new version. And right here, it only shows you the latest 3 versions. If you want to see more, just click on another version available. But what it's going to do, it's going to bring up the pop-up basically. So you can see the other version available. So you can see here what changed back. You can see the current version. And this is how you manage version control. Now, one thing I did notice, and I'm going to bring this up to DatoCMS, this is a block. So if we go into settings, it's one of these block libraries. It's the address. So now if we go into content under this entry and click on revision history, if we look at that, if you recall, we changed the 111 back to 2345 on the current version, right? So if you have 2345 right there, for some reason that is not showing there. So I'm not sure if that's because it's a block, and for some reason it's not tracking the block. But that's something, if DatoCMS, you're checking this out, that may be a potential issue that maybe needs to be fixed. But regardless, you can see that we can easily travel back in time, basically, and look at all the different changes. And it's interesting because on the previous ones, you see all the changes. It's just the most current ones that you won't see on those blocks right here. Okay, so very, very easy to make changes, very easy to restore. Alrighty, so let's close this up and let's make sure I've covered what I wanted to cover on this portion of it, because this portion is pretty simple. I mean, the DatoCMS pretty much takes care of all those revisions for you automatically, so that's not a big deal. So let's talk about localization now. So let's go back to Miro here, and I'm going to show you. And what happens is it's the same hierarchy, okay? Everything is the same here. But what really happens behind the scene is right now I don't have any locales except one. But when you have multiple locales, the snapshot